Sup, guys, we're here for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council. Welcome to Coffee Time, your Monday morning discussion video released in the evening, because it's the evening video, and that's typically when I have coffee. With that said, if this is your first time viewing, welcome to the channel. Now with that out of the way, let's get into today's topic. Today we're going to be talking about the Big Four. No, not the metal band's Big Four. We're talking about the Big Four meta decks that Konami's hyping up, and we're going to look at each one of them and basically go into why it is that Konami's hyping them. And then we'll also talk about some stuff that is pretty much in the shadows and could take one of those spots away from everything else, the unpredictable Sons of Guns. So this is going to come from... This is going to cover from now all the way down to when deities are released. So I'm not going to leave anything out. I'm going to put it all on the table and we're going to talk about it. So the Big Four that Konami hyped up was Blue Eyes, Dark Lords, Deity, and ABC. A fusion deck, I don't know what to really call deities. They pretty much do everything in Yu-Gi-Oh! But they do it consistently. They fuse, they synchro, they exceed, and they pendulum summon. Yeah. They just don't tribute. Blue Eyes and Dark Lords. So, there's a lot there. Now, the possible ones I want to really quickly just bring up are PK Fire, which is, Phantom Knight, Burning Abyss. It could be either which one. We're kind of just putting them together. Treat Toad variants. This could be Mermel's. This could be Treat Toad Hero. It could be anything of that sort. Metaphors also revolves around basically variants and whatnot. And then Yang Zing, because Yang Zing can use Carved Demise, and as seen, Carved Demise decks are still a thing. And then you have the unpredictables. The Cosmos, the Subterriers, the Spirals, because Cosmo are very flexible, so we'll see what they do and how they adjust to their limitations and whatnot, and how they're going to move past Invasion, Vengeance, that's what I'm referring to. Subterrier and Spiral, we don't know what they're going to get, and if history repeats itself, it's going to be something that's going to break the deck. And Mermel have just pretty much been there with BA for nearly the longest time. I mean, technically it's Atlantean now, but who knows. And then there's also, of course, regular heroes, Tamaya builds, Dark Law, whatever you want to phrase that as. So, these are all pretty much, in my eyes, the ones that are going to have the runnings for anything that you're going to see meta-wise. I think we're going to have a semi-healthy meta this time around. It's not going to be as degenerate as it typically is. I mean, you're probably going to have a few rogue decks like a random Monarch that may top, or Madolche, which has been topping, or Lightsworn, or just anything of that sort. There's probably one I'm leaving out, but forgive me. The Big Four. Blue Eyes. I pretty much said that soon enough, if it follows the OCG trend, because if we're going to have ABC, then we're going to have Deities, and we're going to have Dark Lords, and we're going to have Treat Toad, that Blue Eyes, the playability of it in the meta is going to go down the percentage. In OCG land, it was pretty much like 50%, then 26%, then 13%. Right now, I think it's currently at what people really play Blue Eyes at. The deck is not bad, but it's kind of outclassed when it comes to ABC because of the Buster Dragon and all the loops the deck can do, and the stupidity it brings to the table. And it can keep up with Blue Eyes. They're both really... It's interesting to see how that matchup's going to play out. And we do know Winter Cherries is going to play a key role in that whole thing. And then you have Dark Lords, which don't really give a shit about using an extra deck. They drop big monsters, they draw really quickly, and they have Archlord Christia that they can count on. That alone is scary, because as proven before by Monarchs, when you have a Floodgate monster that can come out to the board and just completely stop you from playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, that is not a fun time. That is absolutely horrendous of a time. I think as we shift to these decks, we're going to see Dark Hole, maybe Dark Hole. Don't call me nuts. Maybe Dark Hole come into play a little more. I've experienced it the past couple of hours playing Ultimate Hero, that a well-timed Dark Hole or Raigeki can easily just rip apart a board. We're going to see things like Book of Eclipse come back into play, and this excites me from a competitive point because it's fresh. It's not the same Cosmo, Burning Abyss, Pepe that we've been seeing for the past couple of months. It's completely new again, and it feels good to be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta and not just sitting here going, the meta sucks, the meta sucks, the meta sucks. A deck like Cosmo can easily take one of these spots. If Blue Eyes falls out of flavor, then Cosmo can come in. See, here's the thing that OCG didn't have that we can't fully predict. We're not getting DDs to like February 2017. I think it's around that time or January. It's somewhere around that time frame. So in that 6-week period, the back half of January, the early half of February. When it comes to DDs, well, if you understand the deck, they're really powerful. They spam the board. They can just literally outplay you in a moment's notice. And if you're not ready for that and you don't have something to stop them, it's going to be horrendous. And that new trap card I've been talking about and I want to talk about, I think it's Dimension something. That card's not going to really be all that useful against this deck unless we get an Exceed heavy deities or Fusion heavy or Synchro heavy deities. I mean, I guess we can call fusions and then do that, but it's hard. Dark Lords, the rumor is if you play Droll and Lockbird against them, it hurts them like hell. We'll have to see, because the TCG, in my eyes, I will say this much, the TCG has a better habit of picking quality decks over quantity decks. When I say that, as where OCG will just play the newest, hottest thing and make it meta, TCG really puts the foundation into it, puts the time into it. Is it really a problem? Is it really degenerate? Is it really an issue? Yes, I just gave kudos to the TCG player base. That's something that Ryu would never ever do. Lies. Absolute lies. And then you have something like Subterra. I know we're going to talk about that before, and we're going to go back to that, but the thing with Subterra is, we don't know what support they're going to get, but I think regardless of the support, only because they work on flipping, is that it's going to be outclassed by ABC unless they have something that says this cannot be banished. And yes, I know Imperial Iron Wall is an absolute beast of a card, but, it's all about the chains, and if you have the setup. This whole format, with even the big four decks, it just kind of feels like if you go turn one, and you can establish something on the board that's going to make it hard for your opponent to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And they have to give up so much advantage, and you have advantage in your pocket to get over that advantage, well, then you win, good sir, shake your hand, move on to the next game. Maybe I'm completely incorrect, and I haven't played enough of it, but that's currently what it feels like. So let me isolate a few things here. I played the living hell out of ABC, and I can tell you that the TCG player base, about 85% of them will not be using Galaxy Soldier or Transmodify, because Transmodify could be a dead draw, and Galaxy Soldier, yeah, it's nice to go Cyber Dragon Infinity, but the TCG player base wants to focus on something that's going to be more coherent as a complete deck and not just kind of all over the place, because you're giving up a lot of resources to do that. Maxi's not at 3 no more, so that also hurts the recovery system that version wanted to use. The superior version is the current version in OCG, and that's been decided on most of the TCG player base, and I respect it. The only reason I put Galaxy Soldier in mine is because most people would have had a fit if I didn't, and I also felt at the same time that it gave me a backup plan against Winter Cherries, and people were main decking it on me on Yugioh Pro, so I did get hit when Winter Cherries, still pulled out the Cyber Dragon Infinity and still won because of it. So I was able to make Omega. I think Omega and Daigasso Emerald may play a key role in getting around Winter Cherry, so we'll have to see how that's played. And I'm going to basically explain that. Omega can put one card back in. There's also Pot of Avidity that can put it back in, so there's that too. So I think the TCG player base is definitely going to break ABC. That's going to be a thing. But our Big Four will not be complete until next year. So what about the Big Four right now, Ryu? What are we looking at? Well, we're looking at Tree Toad.deck, Metalfoe Yangzing, definitely after seeing the combos. That thing is fire. PK Fire, if they can keep up with the rest of the game state. ABC, Blue Eyes. If I say something twice, just forgive me. I think if Dark Lords are in Invasion Vengeance, I don't quite remember if they're there or they're in something else. I'm a little lackluster on sleep right now. It's getting better, but I don't fully remember where they're actually placed for the TCG. So we're only going to focus on Blue Eyes and ABC and whatnot. But if Dark Lords are coming, I think it'll be Blue Eyes, Dark Lords, ABC, and probably Treat Toad variants. PK Fire, Metal Foe is going to be our meta. And then the unpredictable like decks are going to be Spiral and Cosmo and Hero variants. I guess you could put heroes under the whole Tree Toad thing because they can use Treat Toad and go Treat Toad Darklaw. Also, side note, because I am working on that guide to your side, that is basically, well, the top 10 that is basically, I just confused them. The top 10 that is basically the best side deck cards that you can use. Phoenix Mode Raw. It's so good, outing the Darklaw, the Tree Toad, and the whatchamacallit, the Bahamut Shark, because they'll have 3 monsters on the board. I mean, you can use Lava Golem, you can use Kaiju, whatever works. But honestly, I think we're going to see a lot of Kaiju variants to out a lot of things. We may see some Floodgates, used again. I think if people underestimate a deck like ABC and don't want to consider it meta, it's cool, but I really do think it's going to pop up. Because it's just like Monarchs where people underestimated the deck. And then, of course, what happened? The deck obviously took, freaking tops left and right. And even formed an extra deck version. So anything's possible at this point. I think once deities come in, they're probably going to take over. Depending if we get a list at that point. Because that'll be around February, March. So it's kind of hard to say what the game state will be for deities to come on in and try to take over. At that point, we may be just completely so ready for them that they can't. And I'm not trying to put down the deck, but we're going to have a lot of preparation time. As we're something like with Tree Toad, it's just like, you got to be ready now. If you ain't ready now, you're just going to get raid stomped by it. And I will say this much. You guys are absolutely right. The problem is not Tree Toad itself. It's the design of Bahamut Shark to get Tree Toad out in decks that typically wouldn't be so focused on it, because if you're only going against a Tree Toad deck, it's pretty easy to play around in all seriousness, it really is. But if you're trying to play against a deck that can spam it out because of Bahamut Shark, that's a lot harder. The other sleeper deck I was referring to was probably Dino Mist, because that can also do the Bahamut Shark thing, and that deck is crazy. Another sleeper deck. We talked about that last week. Let's see, is there anything else I wanted to talk about in this video for you guys that is not update related? Well, Yingxing with their counter attack card, with the Metal Foe, with the engine, with the combos, I think they're going to give us some kind of idea of how the player base will adapt to combo decks, and I'm going to try to explain this very politely. A lot of players have a harder time when something's meta that relies on combos, because you have to memorize the combos, and it's hard for some people who don't have the time in the day to, relentlessly master these combos like you and I are on YouTube, and, if you're YouTuber too, it's easier for us because we can put our focus into it because we're making a video on it and we're cutting content on it. For the average Joe player, it's a lot harder to really get out there and master all those combos, and Ritual Beasts are a great example. So I think if a deck like Ritual Beast, during its time, could top, I think there's no question about any combo deck really topping. If you guys have any more questions about the Big Four, God, that sounds like fucking some metal Big Four shit. I just always wanted to use that title, now I feel honored. Then let me know down in the comment section below, and let's give a quick little updates. So, we are officially, I think, 2 weeks away from Thursday for Comic-Con New York. That was the event I was talking about on Stock Market, but the footage got kind of fucked. Thanks, Fraps. Thanks, Sony Vegas. It just kind of happens. So, the plan is right now there's a Konami booth at Comic-Con New York, so we're going to try to do something. Mikey's going to come along. We're probably going to do something. I don't know what exactly we're going to do at the event that will come here onto the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council and not feel so out of place, because we only do Yu-Gi-Oh! Content here, and the network is pretty much going to be the isolated home of most of that footage that will be coming out of Comic-Con New York. That's where it's going to go. I'm not trying to self-promote it, I'm just saying. Now, if you guys will excuse me, I have a Gotham review and a WWE Raw review once that's done, airing, to actually cover for you guys. So, means the world. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe for more, and keep requesting those deck profiles. I'm going to make it happen. And on Wednesday, thanks to a few of my friends, we have something special coming out for you guys. I don't want to say what it is yet, but it's something that should have came back a while ago, but it's coming back now. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll see you later. Peace. Good night.